One of the games I was most excited to play on the Playdate was The Legend of Etad, which is a first-person dungeon crawler and one of the most impressive games on the system. The game isn't the only first-person game on the system, but it is perhaps the most prominent. Through the game, you have to go through several large and sprawling outdoor areas and also some indoor dungeons, whilst avoiding monsters and hazards along the way. This isn't a first-person shooter, but does kind of feel like one, except you primarily just battle with a sword and shield, and not shoot a gun, of course. I have played a true dungeon crawler back in the days of the Amiga, and so if you're not familiar with them, let me briefly explain. In the olden days, before you could have a true 3D environment in a video game, these were the first-person games where you would move forward several feet at a time. So you would go through the world in a first-person view, but it would be like you had one new frame of animation every 1 or 2 seconds. It's interesting playing a game like this because the trend of 3D first-person games on VR devices, it is a similar experience, how you would jut around at angles and not see the in-between frames, because of course on a VR device that can make you feel motion sick. And so trying to play Resident Evil 7 in VR meant it suddenly felt like a dungeon crawler. Sometimes on dungeon crawlers, but not every time, you'd also have the ability to rotate left and right, and then be able to see the world from the opposite direction to what you previously did. And other times these games would be almost on rails, so you could only go forwards. The game actually reminds me of Duke Nukem for the Tiger Gamecom, and I know that sounds like it's a really harsh put down, but that was a first-person shooter that effectively just had you move across the game like a dungeon crawler. Although in that game you could never turn around and would only ever face forwards while strafing left and right. In The Legend of Etad, you start in a dungeon and need to escape. There are paths blocked by large grates, and you have to work out how to open them, either with a key item or finding your way to the other side of them, and maybe opening them with the crank. The game does find a couple of uses of the crank, but mostly you'll be playing it with the D-pad and the face buttons. I'm actually super impressed with the controls, as it allows you to control a lot with just 2 action buttons. The left action button will control your left hand, whilst the other your right. Usually I'll have a sword on the right and a shield on the left, but if I hold down the right button it'll bring up a menu for each hand, and then I can choose to swap what I'm holding in either hand and scroll through items like health items, key objects and weapons. You can also just hold down the left action button to strafe left and right, whilst also holding down the left or right diagonal button. It's great when you find the fire ability and then always have a ball of flame ready in your left hand. This reminds me of Hexen when you have spells at the ready instead of guns, and that was a game from the 1990s. This is most useful in a later dungeon stage when you face an army of giant spiders and can just use the flames to burn a wall of web that blocks your route, or even set fire to the spiders. Now, I really like the game, but it is so easy to get lost. I played up until a dungeon area, and then life got in the way of me playing for a week, and when I came back to it, I realised that any memory of where I had to go or what I needed to do was nearly completely lost. This meant I had to spend a long time just wandering infinitely around a dungeon for an eternity. In the end, I purposely used a fire spell that you pick up, and I set myself ablaze. And I did this in the hope that when the game restarted, it would put me near an entrance. It did. So that was useful. Like I said, you can strafe by holding the B button, but it's neither that fun to just have to face a wall and slide along a corridor to find the exit, and also doing so opens you up to being attacked from the side. From this, I was able to learn that you had to look out for the slightest change in surface texture to an otherwise bland wall to notice where the exit would be. In the game you have a compass, but at least as I found, you don't get a map, and you desperately need a map. In an ideal world, you would be able to see this map in the corner of the screen as you move around, but that may not be possible on such a small and simple screen. Alternatively, you would be able to open a map like you do in the original Doom game and still be able to move around as you have the map open, just to help you navigate your way around the areas. The game isn't super long and has been expanded since it was first released, but you'll need to spend a lot of time just trying to navigate the world, which is its biggest flaw. I'm beyond impressed with the graphics of this game, and although there are examples of first-person shooters on Playdate, including an unofficial port of Doom, because of course there is, this is how a first-person game on Playdate can be done that feels like it's what the little yellow console can manage. I also like how the game is just called The Legend of Etad, and if you hadn't realised, Etad is date spelt backwards, so it's easy to see that this is a reference to the console that the game is designed for. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on The Legend of Etad on the Playdate. I've enjoyed this game, and I think it's a good example of what can be achieved when you really put some creativity into your designs. So that's going to wrap things up for this video. If you haven't done so already, I would appreciate if you would smash that subscribe button here on the Geek Battle Gaming YouTube channel. You can also go to www.xstreamed.tv/gaming, where you'd get the article version of this review. So with that, until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and ciao for now. Boom, and we're off the air.